folks, Marie here for some Real Talk with Coffee. I'm excited to be here, and I wanted to hop on today to talk about these 4 burners theory of work-life family balance and why I have a problem with it. So, good way to start a Monday morning. So I was reading an article last week about this idea of work-life balance, thinking of it metaphorically as 4 burners on a stove. So imagine you have a gas stove and you have 4 burners. And the idea is you only have a limited amount of fuel or energy that you can put into these burners. So if you have 2 burners on high, the other ones have to be on low. So this is the idea that one is one is family, one is your health, one is your work, one is, hobbies, whatever it is, whatever your 4 burners are. And the idea, of course, is that you can't have them all on at once, or if they're all on at once, they can't all be at a high heat, so you can focus your time and energy. So I love a lot of things about this theory. I love the idea that you can have some burners on high for some parts of life, and then you turn them down for other ones. And so this idea that work-life balance isn't about perfect balance, but it's about shifting where your energy goes. Of course, I'm invested in that. That's essentially the heart of the Create Balance method. But the problem I have with this description is that usually it's being used by, there's lots of writers that use it. I've read it mostly from men. That's just speaking to something I've noticed. And they talk a lot about how you decide where to put your energy. Obviously, that's something I talk about too. But what's often missing from these descriptions is what happens when one of your burners that you had on low goes to high and you didn't know it was going to happen. And this is what happened to me last week. So if you imagine the burners being something like family, personal health, work, and friends, or something like that. In September, generally my work burner is on high because I'm going back to teaching. My classes have started. I'm running workshops for Create Balance. Like, this is my time when I'm really diving into work and doing the deep work of teaching and running my business. However, and I'm still paying attention to my children, obviously, and my family and my health, but some of that stuff just goes on low for a while. Well, last week, I took my daughter to the doctor, which should have been a pretty routine thing. And she completely lost it. It was sort of epically horrible. And we actually couldn't finish the checkup. I should say my daughter's 6. So this is also something that was very stressful, but also she's sort of old enough where this shouldn't be happening as much. Anyway, so what that means is that was a day, that Wednesday, the plan was I took her to the doctor in the afternoon. And then when I got home, my husband was going to be taking care of the kids while I went back and finished work. And I just couldn't do it. I was so drained from that appointment. I basically just sort of hid and hunkered down. I couldn't focus on anything. And so even though I had planned for my work burner to be on high at that point, my family burner to be on low, it didn't work. The family burner went up to high and snuffed out everything else. And so I just wanted to come and say, like, real talk. Sometimes we make a plan and we are very intentional about our time and energy. And then our lives involve real people. Sometimes real people need us more than we planned they would. And so I just wanted to share that today and say that my way of dealing with it was to accept that this is what was happening, that the family burner was on high, and that's what I did on Wednesday, and it means I worked a longer day on Friday. And I'm lucky in the sense that I was able to do that shift, but I think it's just important to note that if you are somebody who does well with things being compartmentalized. I'm like that. I do well when work lives in this bucket and family lives in this bucket, and my personal health and stuff lives in this other bucket. I do well with that. If you are someone who does well with that, I think there's a lot you can do with that organizationally and time management wise. But I just want to remind you, like I was reminding myself, we have to honor that sometimes one of the burners of our lives might get turned on high. And maybe we aren't the one who turned it on high, but we still have to take care of it. And we can still use all the same strategies to divert our attention and time as we need to and learn that sort of flexibility that comes with being a parent. All right, those are my Real Talk with Coffee thoughts. Have a great rest of the week.